Hello and welcome to IGCSE Success. Today we will be looking at the directed writing question. Where do I start with this question? No, honestly, this question causes so many problems for students around the world, and it's a difficult question. Other exam boards across the world, they get their students to write a piece of non-fiction, write a letter, write a newspaper report, write an article. That hasn't changed for IGCSE, but you need to use a text, get the explicit ideas, get the implicit ideas, and use those ideas to inform your response. Sounds confusing, right? I'm sure you're aware, but there are a few changes to this question. First of all, the question is now at the end of the paper. And rightly so, because arguably it is the most challenging question. This question is also now worth 25 marks. In previous years, you got 15 marks for your reading and 5 marks for your writing, which was always quite odd to me. So 25 marks of the paper, it's really important that you get it right. And before I start this video, I just want to say that my thoughts with all of those who have been directly or indirectly affected by the coronavirus. I'm sure you've also read the news as well about how the government have decided to cancel the exams in the UK. And this, of course, has created a lot of uncertainty with those sitting the international IGCSE. Cambridge have said quite clearly that the exams will take place. Inevitably, there are going to be students out there, particularly those who are sitting the international Cambridge examinations, who are perhaps feeling a little bit anxious. My advice would be to stay focused. The exams are going ahead, and just think of that end goal. So let's get started. The directed writing question. What are you required to do? You'll be required to produce a piece of non-fiction writing between 250 words and 350 words. That's about a page and a half of normal size handwriting. You will be given 3 bullet points. Hopefully the first 2 bullet points shouldn't cause too many problems, because that's where you usually have to find the explicit ideas from the text. The third bullet point is usually slightly trickier, because you may find yourself struggling to find explicit ideas. You may find 1 or 2, but generally the third bullet point requires you to infer. You will be assessed on one of the 7 text types that you are required to understand and be able to write. They are articles, speeches, letters, that's both informal and formal letters, newspaper reports, formal reports, interviews, and lastly, journals. You need to be confident with all text types. You shouldn't be one of these students who hopes and prays that a newspaper report doesn't come up or a formal report doesn't come up, because last year it did. Now, the first thing you need to understand is the difference between explicit ideas and implicit ideas. Explicit ideas, put simply, are ideas that are clearly expressed in the text. You don't need to do any digging to find out this information. Implicit ideas, on the other hand, are ideas that are suggested. Quite often, we go through the process of what we call making inferences, and our inferences are based on the explicit ideas that we read from a text. Let's take the following example. The teacher had paper strewn all over their desk. The smell of coffee seemed to permeate their classroom. So what explicit ideas do we get from that sentence? Well, we learn a few things. We're dealing with a teacher, there's paper everywhere, and there's a really strong smell of coffee. But what inferences can we make about this particular teacher? Well, the fact that this teacher has paper strewn all over their desks, perhaps they're somewhat stressed, perhaps they have deadlines to meet, or perhaps they're just a little bit disorganized. And the fact that coffee permeates the room, well, we learn a number of things. Are we dealing with a coffee addict? like me? Or again, is it suggesting that this particular teacher is quite stressed, they've got deadlines, so they're having to stay up late to meet these deadlines? These are what we call inferences, and we make inferences based on what we've just read. If you want to get top marks for the directed writing question, it's really important that you include explicit ideas and implicit ideas. My next video will be looking at the different steps to ensure you succeed with this challenging question. As always, if you have any questions, please do leave them below. Thanks.